is rolling. Danielle. Hey, good. And Sue. Ready when you are.
A Republican and a Democrat are on the same side on one issue. Yes, I did say this correctly. Both Barney Frank, Democrat from Massachusetts, and Ron Paul, a Republican from Texas and also a potential presidential candidate, both have something they agree on, according to the Huffington Post. The passing of legislation to end the federal ban on marijuana and let the states decide whether to legalize it. Currently, more than a dozen states permit the sale of medical marijuana, yet this is not legal under federal law, which is sort of confusing. Politicians want to legalize marijuana, and it seems Americans wish to as well. According to the most recent Ramsden poll, about 56% of the population supports legalizing marijuana for recreational use. Back in November of 2010, California almost passed a ballot to legalize the possession and sale of marijuana. Only by a small margin, 46% to 54%, did the measure fail to pass. This, to me, is quite alarming, especially knowing that I have a background in using marijuana, and I know where it took me in my life. I used marijuana for 3 years, and during that short time I managed to spend more than $10,000 on the drug, witnessed a severe drop in my grades, and even found myself in a rehabilitation center for 90 days. During this speech, I hope to diminish any falsities that you have heard about marijuana and curb the spirit of legislation you may have obtained from our culture. To accomplish this, I will tell you about the effects of using marijuana for high schoolers and the correlation between using the drug and mental illnesses. I can attest to the substantial amount of literature that has shown that marijuana use among adolescents is related to lower grades in school, greater school absenteeism, more frequent school suspension, and higher high school dropout rate that the Journal of School Health has released. According to the High School Journal, research consistently depicts an inverse relationship between general marijuana use and school success, where the more you use marijuana, the less success you have in high school. The National Center for Education Statistics approximated that there were about 16.4 million students enrolled in high school during the 2007-2008 academic year. Well, what is alarming is that at least 800,000 of these students attended school high. That number does not even include those who use marijuana but did not go to school while on it. Students using marijuana at school had lower grades, lower classroom participation, worse attendance, more academic dishonesty, and were disciplined more often than were general marijuana users. If that was not enough, according to the director of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, a growing body of evidence now demonstrates that smoking marijuana can increase the risk of serious mental problems. Both this group and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration has cited that a prominent number of studies has recently identified a direct link between marijuana use and increased risk of mental health problems ranging from depression, suicidal thoughts, and schizophrenia. Even the prolific NoMoreDrugWar.org admits that a correlation does exist between marijuana use and certain psychiatric ailments. As you can see, there is a real need for the laws that we have now to stay intact. Using the drug at school only yields negative results for its users, and there is a direct link between using marijuana and mental illnesses. Yet, how do you silence the ever-growing number of Americans who wish to overturn these laws? One step that can be utilized is to make sure that the federal law is not overturned, and we need to vote for those people who are going to keep those laws in place. Since this is going to be decided at a national level, it is impertinent that the right officials are sent to Congress. Another step that can be taken is to make sure that marijuana use does not start in an early age. The 2005 survey of drug use and health found that in the late 1960s, fewer than half of marijuana users were under the age of 18, but in 2005, 64% of the users were under 18. All parents should inform to their children that this is something to be avoided at all costs. Even if you can do one of these things, a difference will be made in curbing the thoughts of Americans today. Now I wish to share a little bit of my story with you. This is what I looked like when I started using, or at the end of my drug using period. The person in this picture had no power, no willpower, motivation, or care for anyone but himself. The person in this picture also was not a result of rebellion or my parents doing a terrible job with raising me. That is a direct cause of the drug that I've talked about this whole time. I decided to take action and share my stories with others by having my story published in the front page of my city's newspaper, where hundreds of thousands of people read about my transformation. Here that is right here. I hope that others can rise up and share their success stories as well, so a stop can be put to this dangerous drug. Politicians are now raising their voices in support of legalizing this drug, but at what cost? I have shared with you the effects of drug use at school, in fact that it is tied to mental deficiencies. Americans already have to worry about drunk drivers, but just think of adding high drivers to that mix. Maybe it is better if Americans do witness a pot-legal country. The citizens of this country will feel the negative grasp this drug takes on our nation, and maybe the voices of legislation will be silenced for good. Thank you. What was it?
6:48.
Oh,
Danielle.
birthday.
Steve.
Greetings.
And Sue. The end.
Very